It's one of those seasons. Even with the meta switched up, heavy damage spam comps are very clearly much easier and much more effective to play. Here are the most broken heroes in Season 11, and how to abuse their strengths to easily win games. If you're looking to rank up on your favorite heroes, check out the link in the description below to get access to a GameLeap membership. There are tons of guides and courses that can level up your game and help you get better, faster. Make sure to check it out and enjoy the video. Let's start with the hero that made it all happen at the start of Season 11, Pharah. Normally, Pharah would be pretty difficult to play, with all the skill shots you need to hit and careful movement to avoid focus fire. But right now her damage output is just insane. Her 120 damage rockets got especially big from the Season 9 patch, and that makes it so much easier to land direct hits. On top of that, she didn't just get a new ability from her rework. Her rockets got both an increase in projectile speed and fire rate. Sometimes it feels completely weird when a hero that hasn't been changed for a while suddenly becomes seemingly overpowered. But in this case, it's mostly because people just didn't know how best to play her, and countering Pharah has always been pretty straightforward, so it definitely wasn't easy to practice her when everyone's so eager to lock double hit scans against it. But a lot has changed now that everyone knows how good Pharah is, and it's definitely more worth it to pocket Pharah than a hit scan. And the final big reason to her newfound success is that the armor change massively benefits high single instances of damage, and the only other hero besides Pharah who has both a massively increased projectile size from Season 9 and high damage into armor is Junkrat, and he's a lot easier to mark than Pharah, who can spam from any angle. Pharah has almost single-handedly changed the meta to hard spam. Flankers are out of the fight with one rocket, and tanks get the armor broken in just a few. Even hit scans can be circumvented with how good Pharah's mobility is now, and all you need to do to farm games with her is play the right angles and spam hard. It's a lot easier than you think, and no nerfs are going to take this away from her. You actually don't have to go crazy and get picks. Even in the Pharah mirror, you've just got to be dealing more consistent damage to the enemy team. It may be tempting to go for the Pharah duel, but just remember that it's Pharah's raw, uncounterable spam that makes her so strong. Not even D.Va can handle her as long as you keep your distance, which is definitely to your advantage. Next on the list is the most broken tank this season. It's Mauga, but he's definitely a lot less straightforward than Pharah is. You can't just overdrive and spam the enemy tank, although that will work against a lot of them. Overdrive is pretty much the main reason why he's so good. Junker Queen's commanding shout just can't compare. Other tanks have matrix abilities and shields that they can use to stop your overdrive, but overdrive itself is stronger than any other ability alone. A whole 5-second duration that gives lifesteal and damage reduction to your team. Other tanks either have a shorter duration to their mitigation or get it forced way too easily. Mauga almost always has the option to kite away easily without using his overdrive. His charge is just that good. With 50% damage reduction, you really won't die unless you're way overextended or you're way too low before you decide to leave. Already, that's the best mobility out of any of the brawl tanks, and pretty much the best brawling out of any of the brawl tanks. Damage reduction and lifesteal on just Mauga wouldn't be that good, but on your whole team, it's one of the best enabling abilities in the game. And especially now that Pharah is so popular, it's even more perfect that he's pretty much the only tank that can safely contest her with his long-range chain guns. Even D.Va needs to fly onto her to get rid of her, and because she can sit so far safely back, your armor and matrix will be gone before you get close to the kill. As a tank, you shouldn't be trying to get kills immediately, but as Mauga against Pharah, anytime she's too close, you can beam her, lighting her up for the crits with your second chain gun. And she's not the only hero you can force out. Mauga may not get lifesteal or overhealth against shields or matrix abilities, but he's almost as good at killing tanks as Roadhog. And as long as you don't use your overrun to engage, you'll always have an easy, unstoppable escape. Onto the second DPS of the list, and a perfect combo with Pharah, it's Cassidy. The only setback Cassidy has right now is his range. 25 meters is good, but a lot of DPS can't outrange it, allowing them to survive getting 2-tapped. But not only can you pretty easily play for that fall-off range, Pharah, another high-level DPS, can cover that weakness easily. Too far back, you're spammed with rockets and stickies. Too close, and you're getting melted by Cassidy as soon as you peek. Cass is definitely still broken. You may need skill to pull off your shots, but right now he's the only hero who can kill that fast that often. Even Widowmaker can't compete with that upfront burst, and now that Flashbang has been upgraded to be way more consistent, you can even make way more plays by pushing corners with it. It is a fat slow effect, so anyone hit by it is pretty much done with the fight. So now Cass is even more brawl heavy. That's already a lot at a base level, and Cass also gets a lot better with team support and enabling. If you're going to be pocketing and pushing hard for one hero, Cassidy is your best option. He has the health pool and sustain to play aggro and survive, and if you want to finish the fight in one move, Deadeye is now way better at cleaning up kills. But most importantly, he becomes insanely good at wiping enemy teams when you have a speed boost or teleport for him. And finally, now that Pharah has also been lifted up to meta, you definitely want to make sure she can't take over the lobby. Cassidy still has the upper hand in the duel. The number 4 hero on the list is the everlasting Kiriko. It's taken so long to bring the swift step cooldown low enough that you can actually chase her down. Reckless Kiriko flanking can actually be punished now, but that definitely doesn't stop Kiriko herself from being a top tier support. And in most matchups, the teleport doesn't even matter. She's got a really bloated kit with her high range auto-lock heals and consistent damage. That's without even mentioning her abilities. Both Swift Step and Protective Suzu offer instant value, and Suzu especially has been insanely strong this entire time. It's never once gotten weak enough to be less useful. And now after Season 9 and the DPS passive, it's even got a reliable burst heal. The fact that the heal reduction from the DPS passive counts as a status that can be cleansed for 30 extra healing is really strong. especially because it heals in an area. Kiri's one missing strength in low group heals has been covered by her infernally busted invincibility ability, and her Suzu is really not that hard to use. Kiriko is obviously very strong, but she still requires a good amount of mechanics. But even so, her pure healing output and mobility make her so good at fighting for space on the map. Being one of the best duelists isn't for nothing. You can hold some positions completely on your own, and when the enemy team finally gets someone focused, your pocket healing is an easy fix. Now for the third damage here on the list, it's Echo. She hasn't been considered broken for a while, but even though some of her overpowered skills have been nerfed over time, she still has most of what's made her strong over the years. High spam, high burst, high mobility, and a whole new second life with copy. Not only is it a consistent ultimate and extra health to play with, but a whole new hero's abilities makes you even better at overwhelming the enemy team. Handling stickies and full spam and a focusing beam and then needing to deal with a whole set of refreshed cooldowns is a lot. With all that, you're pretty much good to go with Echo in any situation. In the current meta, she's not as good as Pharah when it comes to breaking armor and winning the frontline spam all the time, but her focusing beam goes through Matrix abilities and Genji's deflect, and just having the option to fly can make you completely unkillable to certain heroes. She's been worth getting good at since she launched, and compared to the new heroes and strategies that have been added since then, she's doing perfectly fine. Moving on to the next tank on the list, it's Sigma, and not only is he extremely capable, he's also extremely easy to play. A lot of other heroes, not just tanks, have to focus on the angles they're taking and where to position, but Sigma can just be pretty much wherever. As long as you're not in the middle of the open, you can deal damage and force duels to constantly win the game for your team. The only thing stopping you from going out right now and farming games as Sigma is mechanics. Hitting as many shots as you can is pretty important to playing Sigma, so although long-range projectiles are tough, Season 9 made them much easier to hit, and being able to bounce your shots on walls also makes your shots more likely to land. On top of that, it lets you spam enemies before they even get into your line of sight. Spamming heroes from behind cover has always been strong. It's what makes Echo Sticky so good before the fight. And because Sigma also has some area of effect damage with his shots, there's a lot you can do when you can tell where the enemy team is rotating from ahead of time. I've gone over Sigma's strength so many times, and he's just simply strong. He mitigates a ton of damage. Having both a shield and matrix is really good for balancing your health into all sorts of team comps. His damage is high range and high burst. He may not deal as much damage as Mauga or Roadhog into other tanks, but it's burst damage, and that helps it break armor for the tank head-to-head, which Sigma hasn't always been the best at, but he's at least always had his accretion for a massive stun at the right moment. The only downside to playing Sigma is his low mobility, but that's where you can use your superior range to beat enemy teams. Just make sure to switch up between spamming backline and tank. Sigma has so many angles to deal damage that you definitely don't want to be wasting every 2-shot burst on the tank. On to the last two heroes on the list. First, we've got the latest one, Venture. Even with Pharah and Echo still being top heroes, Venture also has high burst damage. It's just at close range. So even though it can be pretty tough when you can't duel flyers, Burrow and Drill Dash are still super high value abilities for both dealing a ton of damage safely, but also just getting picks outright. Venture is one of the few heroes that can reliably get kills with their neutral. You can get really greedy and aggressive with it. You can get a crazy one-shot combo with your primary fire, melee, and Drill Dash, and pretty much any time you can get a melee in is worth it, because you can cancel it into Burrow or Drill Dash. You can either deal damage quick and get out, or just kill your target outright. Besides the insane damage they can deal, Venture is otherwise just hard to kill when you play them right. High burst damage already makes you good in the duel, and the shields on top of that for every ability makes the situation even better. As long as you play on the flanks, constantly pressuring the off angle, Venture is really hard to deal with in spite of the meta. And finally, to finish off the list, it's Baptiste. He's the ultimate solo healer who can still deal as much damage as the DPS. The only reason he doesn't hit the same numbers as Iliari does is because healing is obviously more valuable, and Bap has it covered both in burst and sustain. Immortality Field isn't as good as it's been before, but it still competes with Suzu. It doesn't heal you up, but with good placement it can keep you unkillable for much longer than Kiriko can. Around a corner or covered by a shield makes it so tough to deal with. And even though Baptiste can be outclassed at the very top level, his only major weakness is that he doesn't have enough mobility to escape dive heroes. So not only do you have your exo boots to at least counterplay the engage, but dive comps aren't easy to run in the ranked. And if it's just one person on you, Bap's good enough at dueling that you can handle it easily. That's it for the most broken heroes of Season 11. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.